Hi everyone, it's Nick here from Noterro. Today I'm going to show you how to build a custom form. The very first thing we're going to do is we're going to click on the gear icon and we're going to go to our template section. And before you build a form, so before we go to this form section, it's important that you create any agreements, and agreements are a statement or a policy that you want your clients or patients to agree to. So it's important that you create agreements first before you create forms. So we're going to go down to the form section and we're going to add a new form. You have two choices. You can use any of the templates that we've created. Actually, you have three choices, or you can select any forms that you've created. So if you want to duplicate those forms and make additions or edits to those forms, you can do that as well. I'm actually going to start with a blank form, so that's our third option, and we're just going to call this new form, and we're going to add it. Okay, so we can see the name of the form is a new form, and when you're making changes to this form, we're going to be auto-saving it, and so you'll see when any changes I make, this will be updated here. So it's called new form. So if you wanted to change it to something else, maybe I wasn't happy with new form, so maybe I'm going to change it to intake form. I need to enable this form, and if I want public access, I'm also going to enable this. This is if you want to share it on your website or emails, or you want patients or clients to be able to complete it. You also could have put an expiry date, so I have it set to never expires. If I turn this toggle off, I can put an expiry date on this, and I could also take the link and share this link. This is an important point here. So if you are going to be sharing this link, say on your website, every time someone clicks on this link and completes the form, it will create a profile in your clinic. So if you're using this link, this generic link, and you put it in an email, for example, every time someone completes this, you will create a profile. And so sometimes when you're using this link, it can create duplicates, unintended, that is. And the last is a button. So if you wanted to place a button, this is the code that you would use, the source code that you would use for your website. So this is the settings section. So I'll just close the settings section. There's a preview section. So as you're building your form, you can take a look at it by just clicking preview here. So let's take a look at our first section. This is the profile section. So this is a section that is basically you turn on and off questions, or show and hide questions that you want to appear on your form. These two first fields, the first name and the last name, are locked. So that's the bare minimum that that is asked on a form, and it is required. So you can't turn those off. And the next is the email section. And so if you don't want the email to appear on your form, you just click the eyeball and it will hide it. And it's being hidden because it has this pinky hue over top of it. And so now this is a hidden field, so it won't appear on your form. This toggle is actually a required field. So home phone is required. And again, just be cautious when you're using these required fields, or you're making a question required, because sometimes people will get stuck on this and the form won't submit. So for example, if they only have a mobile phone, some people are very literate and they'll just say, I don't have a home phone, and they won't know what to do, that they have to actually put a value in there. So we'll show the error that they need to put a phone number in there, but sometimes people get stuck on this. So this required, just make sure you're using these properly when you are marking things off as required. And so you can just go through this section and turn on and off, or make them required. So I'll just click on this little triangle and I will collapse this section. So that's our first section. Now if I want to add additional sections, I have these plus buttons, and so if I click this plus button, it's going to put whatever I add in here. So for example, if I want to put text in here, I can click on text, and it will, I can put any maybe information I want, or any instructions I want for the form, and I have some editing features as well on this. And so this text section will appear above this section. So I'm going to collapse it. And if I want to resequence these, I can just click this and it's going to swap the two out. So now the profile fields will come first and the text section will come second. So let's just change that around. And let's take a look at other things that you can add to your form. So other sections that you can add to your form. So we looked at the text section, and let's look at the next one is an insurance policy. So you have to have insurers add it, and you have to have the insurance add-on as well in order to use this section. And so the nice thing about this is when you use this little widget, when someone fills out the insurance information on a form, it'll create a policy or add a policy directly to their profile. And again, you just go through the same exercise that you did above in the profile, and you just turn fields on and off that you want. Also, the nice thing about this is that when you turn on a field that we don't think the patient or client will have information, so for example, provider type, if I show that, we expose that the client in this case may not have this information, so you might not want to turn this field on, for example. Okay, so let's just collapse this. I forgot to mention as well, in all these sections there is a drop down, so you can delete this section if you wanted to. Okay, so let's just collapse that section and add a few more sections in here. Take a look at what we have here. So we have these other widgets here. So we have the insurance policy widget, we have medications, injuries, and surgeries. And so if you want to ask the medication question, you can just click on medication. And the only other option you have in here is what's called auto pin or auto snapshot. If I click on auto snapshot, for example, when anyone fills out my form and they add a medication, it'll automatically get added to the snapshot section in their profile. So that's a pretty handy feature to have. And the auto pin just puts it in a queue. So more likely you're going to use the auto snapshot feature. So let's collapse that. And so if I wanted to, I can do the same thing with my widgets. I can add injuries and surgeries, much the same way that I added medication. And the two other sections we'll take a look at are conditions and an other section. And you can add as many of these as you like. So we'll just take a look at conditions. Other is very similar, so it's exactly the same. So I'm going to add conditions. I might not want to call it conditions, so I can customize that, for example, and maybe I want to call it injuries or something completely different. And this is how it's going to appear on my form. And so now I've customized the name of this. I actually spelled it incorrectly. I spelled injuries. So we'll make a correction to that. Wasn't paying attention when I was typing. So we'll call that injuries. And this is where you can really build out the questions. And so we have this plus symbol inside this section. So these plus symbols add sections, and this plus symbol will add questions. We'll see what they add. They can add a category, a question, or a text field, much like the same text field that you have here, or it can be a question, just a standalone question. We'll start with categories. So we'll add a category, and this category can simply be, I don't know, area of complaint. I already have one saved, so I'll just click area of complaint. And so now I have a category, and I know it's a category just based on this icon. And so this is a category a category within a section. And I have 0 questions. This is what this represents. And again, we have our drop down, our edit, our delete if we wanted to. So we're going to add, and what I want to do is I want to add questions. And we have a number of question types that you can add. So we have a short answer. So a short answer can be tell me a little bit about yourself. A long answer, for example, could be tell me a lot about yourself. We have checkbox and checkbox with comments. So these two question types, you can basically bulk add questions. So I have some questions saved to my clipboard, so it's just a copy paste. And so all these questions, for example, will be added to that category. And you can see save 31 questions. I'm going to save 31 questions and add another so I can show you the different types of questions. So I just added 31 questions. And so checkbox is what I added, a checkbox with a comment. So if they do check it, they'll get a little comment box. A select one is when you do a select one, you have to put the text in. So list it could be simply, it's a multiple choice type question that you have. And so you put the text in of the question type, and then you'd put the answers in here, and that'd be a select one. And drop down is similar to a select one, but it's in a drop down menu. So again, you'd put the question in here and then your responses or your answers down below. And then a date is, again, the text would be, give me the data, or let me know the date of your injury, or something similar to that. and then there'd be a date picker that they could choose from. The date and a range is, again, what is your level of pain, and you can put a minimum with a label. So the label could be no pain, and this can go right up to 10 with a description of maximum pain. Okay, so these are the question types you can add, and along the way you can also auto snapshot any of these questions. Again, if you auto snapshot the question, it will appear automatically in that snapshot section on their profile. Okay, so it's a pretty handy feature when you are reviewing someone's information. Okay, so those are the question types that you could add. And so we will collapse this, and you can see, before we collapse this, you can see the questions that I added very quickly as checkboxes just by using a copy and paste. And so I can collapse this as well, and I can add additional questions or text if I wanted to. If I click into the edit, I can click either the name of the category, and I get all the questions as well here. So I can finish. If I want to edit, I can click into any of these, and I can make an edit or an adjustment to that as well. So I have two ways of doing it. I can do it this way by clicking on the name, or clicking on the edit here, or I can also click the expand and collapse, and I also have visibility that way as well. So I have a number of options there. And the last widget that we'll take a look at is our agreements. And if you recall, I said you should probably add your agreements first. And so if I wanted a cancellation policy or payment policy to be added to these forms, I would just turn them on. So these are all my agreements that I have here. And with this form, with this new form that I'm going to be sending out, I want to send out, for example, my payment policy and my privacy policy. And so these will appear as links at the bottom of the form, and they need to click on them, for example, in order to view them, and then to submit in order to submit the form. So that's the basis of how you would create a form here. And again, as you're building it, you want to take a look at the preview button. You want to click on the preview button to view your form. So that's the basics of how you would create your new form. Let's go back to the listing page, because I do want to show you some other things on the listing page. So if I go back to the listing page, you'll notice the form that I created, that intake form, doesn't have this locked label. Once you send out a form to a patient or client, it becomes locked, because we need to reference those questions that you created if they do answer it. So once it's been sent out, it's locked. So the question is, I have a locked form I need to edit. You can't edit a locked form, so what you would need to do is you would need to click on the drop-down menu, and you would need to duplicate this form. Okay, and so when you duplicate, you get this copy of, for example. So you want to get rid of that copy of. And so now I've removed the copy of, and I'll close this. And if I refresh the screen, the form, you'll see, becomes updated. I didn't mean to jump out of there. Let me just go back to the COVID-19. So it's just it appears as a COVID-19 when I refresh the screen, and now I can make any edits that I want. The next step you want to do is, once you edit a form, is you need to disable this form here, because if not, anytime you add someone new to your clinic, you're going to get these two forms in your drop down, and you're not going to know which one to use. So you, again, simply just click on the drop down here, and what you're going to want to do is just disable this form. And disabled forms are you can bring them back, or you can show them at any time by just clicking on this show disabled form. And I have a whole list of disabled forms here, for example. And once the form has been disabled, I can enable it if I wanted to use an older form. So if I decide that I really like the form that I was using 2 years ago, again, in the drop down here, you can just click enable, and that form, you can bring it back if you wanted to, for example, to use an older form. Okay, so that's how you would use forms. That's how you'd build forms. And it's simple. So let's go back to, I just want to go back to the page. And so again, you want to try and keep this list as clean as possible, only the forms that you're using. You don't want your form to look like that disabled form page. And again, you need to create those agreements first, because you can see how they get associated. And that's why agreements are first on this list. Okay, so that's how you would build your forms and how they're associated with agreements. So thank you for watching, and please click subscribe if you'd like to be notified as new videos are released.